Okay, Shabbat Shalom. It is the seventh day of the week. But I'm usually, as usual, getting into some of these. And one of the doctrines that you end up hearing again and again from the SDA is that the Sabbath, that would be in regards to Saturday, and if we want to be totally correct, it's from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. But anyway, I hear this promoted. They're really focused on this, that the mark of the beast is the Sabbath, and so forward and so forward and so forward. And they just beat the drums, and you see it on so many places, and I don't know why it's not changing the direction here. It should change. So, where is it? Why is it not changing? What application? Oh, maybe I have. Oh, it's 2 seconds. There we go. Rotation is not on. Okay, great. Well, it's not so great, I guess, but there we go. Oh, well. So one of the things that you hit into is this doctrine of promoting. Oh, that is in regards of the Sabbath. Now, if I remember correctly, there was something in regards of a Roman Catholic thing in regards to the last guy, where he actually changes it back to Saturday in regards of a Roman Catholic prophecy bullshit. But I'm thinking, if you listen to Alberto Rivera, he's also understanding that this is much more than a day, of the week. Now, the seventh day, of course, is one of the seven. The seventh day is one of the 10 commandments, but I don't see it as the Sabbath. It doesn't say it's the Sabbath. The Bible is pretty clear of what this mark of the it's what the mark of the beast is. It's the name of the beast or its number, and then it goes on in regards of wisdom and whosoever has understanding in regards of calculating on the beast number, because it is a man number. As I'm translating here from the Danish here, and its number is 666. The Bible says this directly. We don't need Ellen G. White or whatever bullshit out there to interpretate in regards of what it is. The Bible says what it is. It's the name of the beast or the number 666. And then, of course, we need to figure out where that leads us, right? And of course, it's always back to the papacy, So, yeah, but anyway, I don't see how they can make it into the Sabbath, and they will try to fix it up instead of just taking it in context, and they promote this bullshit. And one of the problems I have with the SDA, where I'm really, really getting tired of them, is that when you're actually looking for neutral sources, you end up hitting into SDA material again and again and again. And one thing is that if they were just honest about telling about that they were from SDA or Seventh-day Adventist, that would be, if they had transparency. But usually, the SDA are apparently trained to not say that they're SDA. So you see, if you see something and you get the sense that this might actually be SDA, because you begin to discern more and more in regards to these things, but yet, you're looking, and then later on in the program they begin to put their doctrines into the teaching, and there might be some very good material in that teaching, but they begin to promote their own like it's part of the Bible, and that's very sad. If you listen to Alberto Rivera, he also talks about, he's interviewed by some SDA, and he also talks about this thing, and sees it differently, which I think is absolutely more correct. Because this is not the Sabbath. Now, again, the Sabbath is one of the Ten Commandments, but it's not in regards of the. It says it clearly. It's the beast name or the number. In regards of wisdom, in regards of calculating it and all that, and apparently the SDA seems to want to pick the things instead of just taking and reading it as it is. They just pick it apart and says that this is another thing than this and this is. I'll give me a break. I don't understand why they couldn't just throw out all the LNG White bullshit. When I've been there in regards to the SDA, I've been getting LNG White books, and I don't have any of those books anymore. I threw them out. Why would I read LNG Whites when I can read the Bible, and of course be careful of Paulus as well. But but it's just so annoying, you're looking into neutral sources in some sense of Bible believers that have, instead of reading some LNG White thing and standing on that, people that think for themselves and study for themselves, it's just tedious. And again, it's not to say that they do have a lot of good things as well, but I just hit into these people like everywhere, and you get tired of it, and promoting, this doctrine that in regards to keeping the Sabbath, that's the number and name of the beast, Give me a break. And of course, they have their own thing in regards to the spin on. But it's very clear in the book of Revelation 13, I think. If you just read it, it's nothing to do with the. How do you get to the Sabbath? How do you get to the Sabbath being the number and name of the beast? Give me a break. But of course, that's not to say that, of course, Sunday in regards of is the venerated day of the sun god Sol Invictus. So, I think we should keep the Sabbath, absolutely, but I don't think it's the name of the. I don't think it's in regards of this thing that they want to, And I was on another place here. The thing is, I just hit into it again. I pretty much just woken up, so. And this was actually something I did not believe was SDA, and I guess I don't know how they got that doctrine, but it's, you begin to become better at you see these doctrines here and there and all that, so you become more able to pick up on it, on these doctrines, and they say the same thing, and I'm like, is this an SDA source again? Or what, So I've been asking them in regards of is this an SDA source, because it's the exact same thing that the SDAs are promoting, and but I haven't been able to really. I thought it was another organization this represented, and I still believe it is. They might have taken upon, I guess they came maybe after SDA, so they might have taken the doctrine from the SDA, I don't know, but and have the same thing. But in either case, it is the same thing that the SDA in regards to the mark of the beast. Oh, that's the Sabbath. Oh, give me a break, No, the number of the beast is the name of the beast, or its number. And what is this number? 666. It just says it directly in the book of Revelation. Doesn't say it's the Sabbath or anything. It talks about it is a human number. Its number is 666. It is the number of the beast. or it's, in regards of whosoever carries the number, or the name of the beast, or the number, or its number, in regards of the name, of its names. It's a little hard to translate to, but anyway, the number of the beast, or the name, whosoever carries that and all that. Um, where do you see it says the Sabbath? But it will be interesting, of course, if in regards to the Catholic sources, if the last guy that will you know, be the last guy in regards of the beast of the number 666, in regards to the papacy, if he actually has been, so-called prophecy, whatever, Catholic prophecy or whatever, I haven't looked deeper into it, but if there's already things from the Roman Catholics saying that the last one will actually change the Sunday back to Saturday, and then the Seventh-day Adventist believes that this is, could you see how they might actually be lured into the system of Roman Catholicism? Just if they have so much focus on one single day, and the Antichrist himself changes his back, what are they then going to do? Yeah, anyway, we'll see how things goes out, whatever the case, Satan is a crafty deceiver for sure. Yeah. Alberto Rivera. Of course, it's interesting. Actually, one of the SDA was taking Alberto Rivera as an uncredible source as well, which is usually the Roman Catholics that actually attacks him. Which is also interesting because Alberto Rivera absolutely had a lot of things that was true. And then trying to discredit him on some, that's just interesting to see an SDA, trying to discredit Alberto Rivera because they don't apparently like what he, it's just that's interesting, very interesting. Now, of course, again, I would always be careful, but a lot of the things that Alberto Rivera said, you find out that just goes out over your head. You find out is true. And I can only see two possibilities, and either he was a former Jesuit, or he was still a Jesuit. I don't think that's, he knew so many things, so I don't see any possibility that he was. When Roman Catholics are attacking Alberto Rivera, they're attacking. They just so low points. It's just so bullshit. They're not attacking. They're really, yeah, it's just so sad. So anyway, but of course that's the Roman Catholics. I wouldn't, the SDA. That's interesting to see them also discredit Alberto for not being a credible source. I really wonder. That's interesting because again, a lot of the things that just went over my head. A lot of the things you can verify. You begin to, grow, and you begin to figure out that what he was saying, this was true, that was true, that was true, and all that. So you have a lot of things that he says that are true that people don't know. People don't know, and yet he's coming out and he's getting attacked, he's being ridiculed and all that, and yet he told the truth. And these things that he's being ridiculed of, you find out is actually true. Now, if so many things of the things that he says are true that people usually don't know, how would he know that? Isn't it interesting that he just knows, and the tricks of the Roman Catholics and all that, how they, and what has happened. It's just incredible how much he actually knew. But anyway, but a very interesting interview from the SDH, in regards of Alberto Rivera. But he also talks about that it's much more than a day. And he goes into in regards to the Sabbath thing and all that, and then apparently, I got he's discredited and all that. I'll give me a break, If anyone is discredited, I would think it would be Ellen G. White with all these weird doctrines. You're building on, and I've asked some questions and all that, and I've actually had one of the, the priest answer me, but apparently he deleted the answer before I could actually see it. But anyway, actually there was two that I actually deleted. But I just asked some questions, in regards of the 1844 doctrine and all that, and I actually have one of them actually come forward, like the Roman Catholics, they coming out of the bushes when you begin to, prick to them in some sense, in regards of when you have found out some of their doctrines, and you get confirmation that that's absolutely what they believe, because they themselves will come out of the bushes and talk about it because they want to defend it. Some of them, come out and try to defend it and absolutely believes it's true. And that, of course, give you confirmation that that's absolutely what they believe. So, again, it's interesting. But anyways, he was defending, one of them was defending the 1844 doctrine and all that. But that's bullshit doctrine. Jesus didn't come in 1844. And then you've passed it another year, and Miller went on board on that as well. And, first Miller promotes one date, and then that didn't happen. Jesus didn't come back and all that. And then some of these SDAs, figure out, it's the next year. It's not, we just missed it by a year. It's the next year. And Miller ends up jumping on that wagon as well. Now, after that, as I understand it from what I read, Miller, after the second time, understands that he was wrong. And yet, there was some of the SDA that could not accept that he was wrong, and they further built on a false doctrine that should just have been thrown out in the trash and going back to the Bible. And yet, that was not what they did. They further build it on this doctrine. So they believe this 1844 closed door bullshit and all that. So, and again, the thing is, they have a lot of truth. And, they're standing against the Antichrist system in regards to Roman Catholicism, and yet they have all these slick things that, and they don't tell their SDA. And that's, I think it's, I think they should say that they're SDA when they go out to people. And I remember reading, a source that confirmed my, what shall we say, you could see that they didn't just come out and say they were SDA. You need to go into the material. And I ended up actually, when I began to sniff out that this smelled like SDA, I could just, go forward to, hours and hours and hours and forward and all that, and just fix it there and see if, because again, they usually just come out with their own things, later on. And, lo and behold, I remember, one of the times, it just works. Yep, it was SDA. And again, you become better to discerning it, as you go. And of course, when you hit into the doctrines as well. And it's like, oh, wait. But again, they do have some absolutely some good things as well. And that's the thing with it. This is just, they are one of the last groups in Denmark that stands for who the Antichrist is. So it's I having a hard time, they don't keep the festivals of Jehovah either. Why? Well, because of Paul, or because of Ellen G. White. It's interesting. I saw one of the SDA groups actually promoting the festivals of Jehovah, but of course they just totally twist what Ellen G. White says in regards of these festivals. You have to be kidding me. Why is it, why is it so hot? They use Ellen G. White to the left and the right. Do you think I come to a church building, to a building in regards of, do you think I come to hear Ellen G. White, or do you think I'm coming to hear in regards of the Bible? One of the times I was at at the SDA, and it was just Ellen G. White, Ellen G. White, Ellen G. White, Ellen G. White, Ellen G. White. I'm like, what other bullshit it is? I don't want to know what Ellen G. White says. I want to know what the Bible says. So, Ellen G. White here, my dear, and all that. Yeah, just give me a break. So yeah, this is incredible. So you see, and you can see that in their other materials as well. Like when I was looking into television things in regards to testing out my video player, and I was testing out these different things, and the one thing it had, that I had a lot of satanic stuff in the video player. The video player itself is neutral, but the things that the guy that has put into the video player had a lot of satanic bullshit, songs, worldly songs, and a lot of wicked things. So I was sitting there and changing the things and all that. And one of the things that this application can do is to have streaming from a video show. And I was looking to Christian television shows. Now, I found this list of Roman Catholics, a religious list of different, what do you call it, links for, or what do you call it, what's it called? When you have what is it called? A link. Yeah, well, a link for, I would have liked to use another name for it, but, you have information in regards of a link, in regards of a streaming. And of course, I looked into it, and of course, all the Buddhists, all the Hinduists, all the other things, so that they were clarified in regards to, okay, this is a Buddhist source, this is a Hinduist source, and this is a Roman Catholic source, and all that. So of course, I began to delete all these things from the text file because I don't want to see any. There's no point in regards to seeing all that bullshit. That's for sure. So what I did was only have the list of the Christian channels, right? You just have to remember that a lot of these channels, that is clarified as Christians, are actually SDA channels. I think I hit into around 7 SDA channels, or around that. Oh, that didn't help. That just made it worse, apparently. I guess this is better than. So I hit into around 7 channels of SDA channels, around that number. I didn't, and of course they don't come out and say they're SDA, but you begin to get the vibe, and you begin to see that the SDA doctrines are promoted, and then some of them just goes totally full blown in regards of Ellen G. White. And of course, it's interesting to see how much effort they put on Ellen G. White instead of the scriptures, instead of the Bible. And again, I would be careful about Paul, Roman Pharisee Paul, in the New Testament as well, because Roman Pharisee Paul leads people into lawlessness and away from the scriptures. Anyway, so there were 2 gospels going out in the world in the first century. One leads to the law and one leads away from the law. And then the question is, which one is true? Which one, and they both come out in the name of Yeshua, or Jesus, They are both in the name of Jesus Christ. Now, what did Jesus Christ do? Did he lead people away from the law, or did he lead people to the law? And that should pretty much, what do you call it? That should pretty much show you which direction you should go, right? Which one is true and which one is false. By the way, the SDA do believe that the law is still standing, which, they don't show it out. So that's nice, But again, then I have to ask, why don't you keep the festivals found in the Bible? Well, Paul says, well, you as Seventh-day Adventists should know better in regards to what Paul says, because what do you get when you talk to other Christians that keep Sunday instead of Saturday? Well, Paul says, right? The same argument. So you're going to use that, when I point out in regards to the festivals? Oh, of course they can use Ellen G. White. If you're not finding one of these SDAs that totally twist Ellen G. White's words on the festivals, because they find out that the festivals are actually Jehovah's festivals. Because that was one of these television shows that I found from the SDA, and they used Ellen G. White to the left and the right, But in the beginning, you need to just sit a little in regards of watching the show to actually figure out that. But when they go full blown, you are sure, yep, we have an SDA, channel. But they apparently believe that they need to twist Ellen G. White's words to promote. I just don't understand why not just throw her out. Why not just throw her out? Why just twist the words of Ellen G. White? Why be dishonest? And it's the same thing in regards to the Bible, where people are twisting Paulus' words to the, people are twisting Paulus' words one direction, another twisted to the other direction. I remember hearing this person on YouTube, and he talked about this, that there was people, rejecting Paulus as an apostle, and he said, he was showing some of the things and all that, but he didn't he didn't himself dare to reject Paulus as an apostle and all that. So what he did was to he was talking about one of the places where he said, this is what people say that Paulus is saying. But if Paulus is saying this, he's a false apostle. So in regards to the guy on YouTube, he's saying, well, I don't I take, I take him as an apostle, so I have to take these words that he's saying, what he's saying, which is pretty clear, but I can't believe that this is the true interpretation that these people are putting on him, because if he says what he says that others are saying that he says, then he's a false apostle, and I cannot accept that. So what I do is, because it couldn't, so I take it in the other direction. He takes it in the other direction. So he's saying, Paul is not saying what these people are saying, because then he would be a false apostle. So he twists them in another direction to make Paul say something else that, and I think that's dishonest, and again, people will do and take a little here and take a little there and all that. And instead of reading it in context, they take a little out here. One of the places where Paulus is talking about food sacrificed to false gods, he actually tells the truth. And yet he flips it 180 degrees, And the problem is that some people just takes that snippet where he actually tells the truth and uses that, and forget the rest of what, where he flips it 180 degrees around. And that's just dishonest, I think. That's not being honest. But he actually, Paulus is very good at flipping things around. He's very clever, he's very sneaky, he's very snaky. Anyway, but this guy on YouTube said, he just couldn't accept that Paulus was so he just twisted whatever Paulus said that he knew was false, that couldn't be. He just twisted it to that Paulus was saying something else, because again, he couldn't say that if he was so that was an intro. But he talked about, there's people outright just throwing out Paulus in some sense. Yeah, I would be one of them, I guess. I just, if I'm reading Paulus' letters, I'm really, really aware that there's 11 in his letters. Yeshua was warning us about Pharisee, the leaven of the Pharisees, right? And of course, Rome, and all that. We have the first guy persecuting the church in the first century. Who was that? Well, that was Paul, right? Paulus, Shaul. Who went to Rome? Oh, well, we know Paulus went to Rome, don't we? Anyway, so where's the Roman Catholic Church? In Rome, your boat. Anyway, so But in any case, we see this doctrine, for example, of food sacrifice to false gods. And Paulus doesn't think it's a problem. He thinks we have this great understanding and all that. So, there's only these weak people that don't, have this understanding and all that. But the problem is, you see the Council of Jerusalem saying that's a no-go. And you see Jesus or Yeshua rebuking in regards to the 7 letters to the congregations in Asia Minor, rebuking them at least twice in this doctrine. Twice, it's pretty clear. But yeah, I think pretty much that Yeshua is again pointing. He's pointing out that the whole system of this wicked. We were told that poisonous seeds would come afterwards. Oh my man, guess I'm a little. So anyway, so the best thing, I think it's just easier to just pretty much throw out all the leaven, pretty much, and just stick to Jesus. But that's just me. I'll be very, very careful in regards. You can still learn a lot from, but you really have to be on your toes. Really have to be on your toes. And in regards of where does Paul lead people? Does he lead people to the law or away from the law? Well, if you just look at the Christians, Paul clearly leads people away from the law of Jehovah. So that should be pretty clear. You can just go out and ask people, and they will flip a poll here and there. Every time people defend lawlessness, they will go to Paul. But Paul says. Yeah, I know what Paul says. What does Yeshua say? Yeah, but Paul says, well, if Yeshua says one thing and Paul says another thing, who are you going to follow? Because you get into these conflicts, you're okay, Jesus says one thing, Paul says another thing, who you're going to trust? Who you're going to stand by? Who is God in the flesh and who is not? Anyway, and of course we were warned about Satan coming afterwards and sowing the bad poisonous darnel. But anyway, apparently people don't take that. And they grow up together until the harvest, right? And that's still future. So are they in the world? Absolutely. They are in the field, which is representing the world. So, yeah. So the problem I guess I have also with a lot of these things is when you ask questions, you're not getting, they should be able to answer honestly, in regards to these questions. It shouldn't really be any big problem, shouldn't it? Why do you need, in regards to the SDA? It's like the Roman Catholics, Why are you hiding what you are? If I'm asking, in regards of being SDA and all that, why do I need to nearly force it out of you? It's just incredible. Sometimes, you know that you're talking with a Roman Catholic, and then you ask, are you a Roman Catholic? And yet they won't answer you. They begin to, no, it's not important. It's just not, it's not, that is not important to this thing and all that. Oh, really? Really? You don't think it's, you don't think that was a reason why I asked you? But it's just so dishonestly, because you can see that these people, you have to be careful, because there's some slick persons out there have been deceived by Roman Catholics before that, where they're making themselves out to, I remember the guy in Jerusalem, and he was making himself out to be a Christian, and yet he didn't say he was a Roman Catholic or anything like that, and yet he was a Roman Catholic. Afterwards, when I found out, down the line, that he was a Roman Catholic, I asked him, and I never, he wouldn't answer me. I asked him around 3 or 4 times or more. I can't remember, maybe a good number of times where I asked him, and he just didn't want to answer me. It's just dishonest. It's absolutely dishonest. When did you become a Roman Catholic? Have you always been a Roman Catholic? And I think he has. I think he was. But the thing is, why can't you answer honestly? And then, if that is the case, I have to go back, but I would have liked to know if he actually was a Roman Catholic at that very point, in regards to Jerusalem, because then of course something is terrible wrong, going backward, because he was making himself out to be something he was not then. In regards, it just, yeah, because we had one that actually was a former Roman Catholic, and yeah, the thing, it just doesn't make sense at all. So I wanted to know if he was a Roman Catholic at the point where we were in Jerusalem, where I met him, right? And he just didn't want to answer. How hard is it to answer a question like that? And yet, just never giving me an answer. Now, another time in regards to that was on YouTube that I remember was also a Roman Catholic that got offended. Now, the Roman Catholics tends to be offended when truth is put on the table in regards to the wicked institution and all that. And you could clearly see in regards to the image, in regards of, how the person responded, that this was a Roman Catholic. So I just, already pretty much knowing that the person is a Roman Catholic, I'm asking the person, "Are you a Roman Catholic?" And instead of just saying if the person was a Roman Catholic, just running around the bush, and I had to ask again multiple questions, multiple times in regards to this, and never ever did the person say that, that they were a Roman Catholic. And you see it again and again. Oh yeah, the last time, I guess that was the last time, that was on Facebook, and you can clearly see that the person is a Roman Catholic, and yet, well, I didn't directly ask at that point, but you see how they get offended, they really, they don't say that where they're coming from, but they get attack you in regards of, and of course, if they're getting offended by what you say, there's a good chance that they are Roman Catholics. And then of course you just look at their, you can look at their profile, you can look at their images, what they are using, and you get more and more discernment in regards of Roman Catholics. And so you get the sense of where it is heading, So when you know that someone is if someone asked me if I was a Protestant, should I hide that away? It should be pretty clear. If people see that I'm protesting the Antichrist, it should be pretty clear that I'm a Protestant. So if someone is asking me, "Are you a Protestant?" Absolutely, I'm a Protestant. Why would I have any reason to hide that? But it should be pretty clear from my testimonies or my writings, because a Protestant is someone that protests the Antichrist, and I absolutely protest the Antichrist, and that should be very clear in regards of my my wordings. But yeah, why would I have, if anyone asked me, "Are you a Protestant?" I would absolutely say yes. Why would I have any? Absolutely, I think any Christian reading their Bible becomes a Protestant. A Protestant by studying. When you study and read the Bible, you automatically become a Protestant. Why? Well, because you see that the Bible is exposing this wicked system, and then you begin to find out where the source is. And it all leads back to Rome in regards to the papacy. Now, Rome will be destroyed in the future at some point, but of course the papacy will continue until Yeshua returns and, destroys it in the lake of fire. So, but that's still future in regards to the beast, casting the Roman beast into the lake of fire, and casting, yeah, anyway. Read the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, and just, you can re-listen to them again and again and again. It's wonderful. And just let the Bible open itself, But yeah, it's just, it's all this, why can't you even say what you are, If you're a Roman Catholic, just say what, just stand that you are a Roman Catholic. But of course, they're mixing together with others, and without saying that they are. I remember one of the forums, Christian forums, where Well, I got 3 Roman Catholics out of the bush. These was Danish Catholics. It was wonderful. You know, it was just wonderful. They were just totally exposing themselves, but they were telling the truth about the Roman Catholic bullshit institution. You know, they were getting a lot of truth on the table. I was just enjoying it. Sadly, someone did the devil's work and just deleted everything. But I enjoyed every single minute of it. You know, they were just, one of the Roman Catholics was rebuking another Roman Catholic for putting up prayers to Mary and all that, and images of Oh, it's just wonderful, just wonderful. Apparently, one of the Catholics was a newer convert or whatever. And he was apparently just, in regards to Mary and all that. So he put on a so-called Mary, he put on actually I think it was 2 prayers actually too, but he put it up and all that, and then he was rebuked by another Roman Catholic that to talk to Protestants about this in regards to Mary is to tell them about what is it called, indulgences. So you shouldn't do that apparently. So you can't even stand on the truth of what you actually believe. So you need to be deceptive about it. But it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful, and the what shall we say, older Catholic in some sense, he knew a lot of the things, and he was just verifying a huge amount of things that I put forward in regards of the dialogue that we had, and it was just served on a platter, on a silver platter, to people to see what they really believed and all that, and yet, bang, deleted, censored, gone, away. And I had thought about making a video and all that, and I had actually put it aside if it was deleted that I could make a video and still have the information. Sadly, the computer had a way of closing down, and when I closed it up, it didn't have all the information from the site, so it refreshed, and thereby I lost all the information, sadly. I was very sad, because that was wonderful. It was just nice to see that some of the Roman Catholics was actually telling the truth, and that this thing that one was rebuking the other for putting forward doctrines that they actually believed, instead of actually standing for what they actually believed. In regards, if you pray to Mary and all that, don't tell all the lies. This is deceptive, and why shouldn't you be able to stand on what you believe if you believe that? In regards to the cookie Jesus and all the rest, You see, you can sit and talk, of course, now I got off trail, I guess. But you can actually sit in front of a Roman Catholic and not notice that you can talk about Jesus and all that. The difference is that they believe that Jesus is a cookie. And of course, they get really offended by that as well when you begin to talk about that wafer god of theirs, which they believe becomes Jesus, and then they are apparently allowed to worship the cookie, which of course is idolatry. But yeah. Any case, so in regards to the SDA, I'm just getting a little tired of hitting into that that doctrines and how they're promoting it and all that. I do wonder if this source that I have on Facebook is actually an SDA source, or if this is one of, because I thought it was another group. I thought it was one of the other groups that actually keeps the festivals and all that. But I guess they could have gotten that doctrine from the SDA. I do wonder if the guy that made this, that is the, what you call it, the beginner of this group, if he actually came out of the SDA. So he might have had it from there, if that is the case. I don't know. But that was interesting, to see that they promoted the same doctrine. Yeah. Anyway. But that's all, I guess. I guess, we're growing a little here and a little there, and yeah. It's just if you're going out and looking for more neutral sources, with just people reading the Bible for themselves and all that, right? And then you get into and hitting into all these SDA sources. When you're actually just looking for people for themselves reading the Bible and not being directed by, doctrines of a group, so yeah, studying the Bible for themselves and growing and all that. Those are the sources I want to, you know, um, for example, in regards to the beast and the seven heads, I knew where the Bible were pointing in regards to direction, in regards to the Bible, but I didn't know enough Roman history to find out, to figure out in regards to these seven heads. And I haven't really totally fixed all, but I found out that there were Protestants in the past actually coming to the same conclusion that I got from the Bible in regards to these seven heads. And I think I pretty much know what the first head was, and in regards to the sixth head and the seven head, that's one of the things that the SDA have, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they have another doctrine. They have like these heads are representing these different what should we say, these different empires. But no. The beast is Roman. It has seven heads, and it begins with the kingdom, and the woman is sitting on all seven heads, and that's the great city that rules over the kings of the world. So that's Rome. But she's sitting on all the seven heads. She's already there from the beginning of the Roman kingdom. And then you have the second head, the third head, the fourth head, and the fifth head, and all that. And then you have, let's see, five have been, one is, and one is to come. And then you have the eight, which is one of the seven, but is the beast itself. Now, the eight is already in the world in our days, as far as I can see. And it's the sixth head. Now, the seventh head was the dukes, if I remember correctly. After the Caesars, there was the dukes. And the dukes was just for a short while, and that's also according to the book of Revelation in regards of, the seven had to be for a short while. And that would be the dukes. And of course, the eight is one of the seven, and this, he is Caesar, but he's also Pontifex Maximus. That would be the Caesars. That would be the number six. So the beast itself is one of the seven. That would be number six, the head of the sixth head, and is that's the beast itself. Because the so-called Pope is Caesar. He's the emperor. He's the king. He's the Roman king. He sets himself up as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He takes all the titles that God has upon himself. He's the Antichrist, the triune tyrant, the Pontifex Maximus, the high pagan priest. Anyway, and of course we know in regards to the book of Daniel that the last beast is Roman, and the little horn is Roman nature because it's sitting on the Roman beast. And the little horn thinks to change times and laws and persecutes the saints. Who did that? Who has done that historically? Who is still doing that? Well, Rome, your boat. Anyway, yeah, and of course being headed by the Antichrist, the Roman Caesar. But yeah, so, but in regards of all these different heads, because Rome had different ways of rules, in regards of governments types, starting out as a kingdom, as most other nations usually are, a kingdom, but then it changes to different other things over time. But I don't know enough Roman history to, but I can see that other people also have had that, and they have fixed, what these seven heads are. But at least I'm pretty sure about the three of the heads, the first one being a kingdom, the six being the Caesars, and the seven being the dukes, and the eight is the papacy. who is one of the seven in regards to the sixth head. So, anyway. So that's as far as I... and again, the whore is sitting on all the seven heads. So she was there from the beginning. From the very nearly conception of Rome in regards of, in regards to the kingdom. So she's not Christian. She is a whore, and she's always been a whore. Before Jesus came into the world, she was a whore, and she's a whore now today, even if she had taken on sheep clothing. But it's still the same Roman mystery, filthy religion, just in sheep clothing. Some call it, baptized paganism. Well, she's drunk by the blood of the saints, as verified in the Bible. I should probably stop this. We're getting low on power. May Jehovah be with you, and Yeshua be a most precious pearl, and the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, be in us all. Amen. Have a good one, all of you. Again, the SDA do have a lot of things that are true as well. They are, but the leaven they have is just you just get, and I see some of the same things that I see in regards of Roman Catholics, in regards to the SDA, and that's of course interesting when you begin to, prick to the doctrines of issues. You begin to see the same problems in regards of when you're talking to Roman Catholics about their issues in regards to their doctrines. As also, it's interesting that Ellen G. White is promoting the same thing that Roman Catholics are promoting in regards of Jesus' brothers being older brothers. What does the Bible talk about Jesus having older brothers? Well, the Roman Catholics are promoting this doctrine because they believe that Mary is an everlasting virgin. So they have to have, these brothers of Jesus, they have to have them as older brothers in regards of another marriage, from Joseph and all that, but it's not biblical, And of course, Mary was known by Joseph. You can just read the first 2 pages of the book of Matthew, or the beginning of Matthew. It says it there, So Mary was not an everlasting virgin, so that's of course one of the bullshit doctrines and all that. But anyway, in the SDA, you see Ellen G. White promoting that Jesus' brothers are older brothers. Why would you do that? That was interesting, right? Anyway, I could probably use a lot of time figuring out things and issues here and there, but, having other things to do and, but yeah, just, you could waste a lot of time. You waste a lot of time with these things for sure. Or you could just read the Bible and stand on that, right? But that was one of the other things. Why, that she's promoting this thing, right? So, but, never really getting any good answers from them. Yeah, that's sad. Very sad. Also, I will never ever become an SDA, that's for sure, Absolutely not. But they do have, they have things that are, and they are, at least in Denmark, one of the last groups actually standing for who the Antichrist is. So, anyway. Of course, that's just sad because the Protestants should stand for that.